It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 349. Tonight I'm joined by Emo.
Hello.
Grace.
Hi.
And Thalen.
Hey there.
Man, that's real weird. Like, there's names missing, and it messes me up every time. Yeah, we've got a small gathering, which, to be fair, for any other podcast would be a large gathering.
Yeah.
So, a thing happened this week. The Windows 11 build, quote-unquote, leaked. Like, it was just a few days ahead of what was supposed to be like a big announcement where everyone assumed they were going to talk about Windows 11. So, whether or not it was an actual leak, or if this was just like to whet the appetites of the press so that they'd get plenty of coverage, whatever it is, it worked. As far as changes to the operating system, like, there's a lot of things that I just didn't care about. I'm not a fan of the whole centered icons that Mac and iOS has going on.
Yeah.
Like, the entire facelift looked very iOS-y to me, like with rounded icons and semi-translucent glass pane kind of things going on. But for the most part, it seemed like this was maybe going to be like the equivalent of 8.1 to 8.0, that it's just going to be a tweak to improve a lot of the way Windows 10 works.
Yeah.
Especially given it's a free upgrade. But therein lies the problem. There's a bunch of requirements for upgrading to this operating system.
Yes.
And one of them was a real head scratcher for basically everyone in tech media. There's been this hardware option for, I don't know, a really long time called TPM, which is basically a way to offload your crypto keys to a hardware device.
Yeah, it's a little special protected place where your keys can live, where the hackers can't get to them.
And no one uses this because it makes it very hard to work on any machine that has it turned on.
Yeah.
Because if anything happens to that little chip, all of your data is inaccessible.
Yep.
So, for the most part, like, there's lots of motherboards that support it right now. There's no one had it turned on. Just across the board, no one was using this feature.
Yeah, and lots of people didn't even know that it really was a feature or whether their stuff supported it or anything. Because maybe your CPU has it built in, support for it. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe your motherboard has support for it. Maybe it doesn't. If it does have support, maybe the thing that it needs is actually on your motherboard. Maybe there's just an empty header that you need to plug a thing into. Who knows? Maybe both of these things are true. Maybe your CPU supports it, but it's turned off, and also your motherboard has an empty header that you can plug a thing into.
And turning it on in your BIOS just enables the empty header.
Yeah.
So for the most part, like, if you had a board that had a header for this thing, it was easy and cheap to add support, and it was like a $5 chip that you plugged into it.
Yeah, like $5 to $10. You order it, you plug it into the header, switch it on in your BIOS, you're done.
I mean, it's the equivalent of USB leads to enable USB on your case from your motherboard header. It's like, not like high tech.
Yeah, basically the only tricky part is making sure that you buy one that matches with your motherboard, because apparently there are 20-pin ones, there are 14-1-pin ones, and some of those have the -1 in different spots even. So you had to be careful about that. But beyond that, it's a cheap little thing that you plug in.
And since no one was really using it, like, it was not a well-followed standard. Now, Windows 11 is going to require that you have not just TPM, but TPM 2.0. And because we live in horrible times, the scalpers have taken this really cheap $5 chip and are now selling them for $100 to $200.
Yep.
As people are trying to get the leaked copy of Windows 11 to work on hardware.
Yeah.
What? But are you really that excited about new version of Windows?
No, not really.
Also, surprise Kodra.
What? I've been here all along.
I mean, in my case, it's less that I'm excited and want to get that version working as it is. There's been a microchip shortage for, it seems like, forever now. And who knows when this is going to stop being a thing. So once all the existing TPM chips out there have been bought up, who knows when more will be made available. So I was going to try and get one real quick while they were cheap before everybody grabbed them all. But no. As it turns out, it didn't matter because my CPU isn't supported for Windows 11 anyway, because Microsoft are jerks.
I mean, to be fair, like, Microsoft also came out at the same time and said they would be supporting Windows 10 for, like, what is effectively 10 years.
I mean, the current end of life is 2024. Have they extended that?
Yeah, I thought they that was part of their announcement.
I mean, they ought to, but
all I'm finding right now is the October 14th, 2025 date, but I'm pretty sure it was pushed out.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is upgrading to Windows 11 is going to be free, but it's not guaranteed to remain free forever. So what's hilarious about that is they played that card with Windows 10, and do you know what you can still do? Yeah.
You can still upgrade to Windows 10 for free. I did it on a device not long ago. So I don't know. Microsoft is confused. Like, there's this whole situation with Microsoft where the company doesn't know how to be. Because, like, on the gaming side, they seem to be overwhelmingly positive and generous, with things like Game Pass and stuff like that. But on the corporate side, they've always been horrible. They're more than happy to come audit you and drop millions of dollars of catch-up fees on you if for whatever reason things aren't exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely will go. I mean, they will definitely go after big enterprises.
Yeah, like we had a situation happen where they audited us and they were counting copies of MSDE that were still around that got installed with software as SQL licenses. When that was the standalone, what was basically a runtime version of SQL. But anyway, like it's just this weird time we live in where everything is going to get scalped.
Yep. Do you want a thing that is at all scarce? Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Do you want a thing that isn't scarce? Well, it's going to be scarce.
Yeah.
And people still can't get PS5s?
I was going to say, I've had better luck with PS5 than anything else.
I'm glad somebody has.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I'm just forever glad that I finally went and got a Switch for Christmas before all this crap started.
Are Switches hard to find too now?
I mean, they have been. Maybe they're easier to find now, but for quite a while, towards the beginning of the pandemic, you could not find them.
Yeah, I had to wait a good while to get mine, but I did at least eventually get that. We'll see if a PS5 ever materializes. It's not looking very promising anytime soon.
I mean, I've clearly won the lottery in that I have a PS5 and a 3080.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Belle was lucky? We're all shocked.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Belle is lucky. What?
I mean, I would contemplate picking up a Series X, but those aren't available either.
Ooh, $20. Bell is the Gladstone Gander of this podcast.
Yeah, but hopefully I'm not as horrible of a human being as Gladstone is.
That's true.
Yeah, Bell is capable of actually like doing things.
Sometimes. I mean, I feel like I have been less capable of doing things lately, but it's because I'm under extenuating circumstances still. So I know we talked about Subnautica recently, but like we have a bit of a follow-up topic in that Grace has now finished the second Subnautica. Like, I'm confused. Is this the second game or is this an expansion?
It is a standalone game. It is a sequel to Subnautica. Yeah, I was confused when it was first announced quite a while ago, and it's been, it had been in early access for a long time, just like Subnautica was, but it is officially released now, which is why I was playing it now, because I learned my lesson with the original that I loved it, but I did not love having to keep starting over and figuring things out as they changed things very drastically during development. But yeah, I mean, I've had Subnautica since it came out, and I only just finished the story before, I guess 2 episodes ago we talked about it. Then I bought Subnautica Below Zero, and I finished that game within a week, maybe 2. And not because of lack of content, but because Subnautica Below Zero actually has a story with some meat to it. I mean, the original has atmospheric story, right? You find traces of people who were on the planet before you. You find traces of, this infection and what was going on to try to address that. But it's all, you're not playing much of an active part in it, except for some bits towards the end of the story. Below Zero, immediately from the outset, you are invested. You are an actual character with a name who is going to this planet because your sister was down there and something bad happened and you're trying to figure out what. And it has pieces that are their own independent story that follow trying to figure out what happened to your sister. And it has an entire second branch of story that's sort of more deeply tied to the lore of the planet and the history of the planet. And it was just really satisfying. I mean, it's not anything... I mean, I don't know. It's not the greatest story that anyone has ever written. It's just the difference between playing a game where I really enjoyed the gameplay and it was atmospheric and it was beautiful, and a game that was all those things but also had a story that I was invested in. That made a huge difference. And I've been racking my brain trying to think of other examples of things like this and sort of having a hard time of it. But anyway, I really wanted to come back and rave about it a little bit because frankly, if I don't see that PS5, I fully expect that this might be my game of the year.
Nice.
That's so. I kind of got lost in the original Subnautica. Is this something where I could play this without having played the original Subnautica and be much happier?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's definitely, there are ties to the original and the story of that one, but I don't think you have to have played the first one. There's, very, very different stories going on in this one, and I do also really appreciate that this one felt a lot less grindy in terms of finding the materials you needed for stuff. It did a lot better of a job of sort of pointing you in the right direction of the things you needed next without beating you over the head with it. The first one very much just kind of dropped you in and left you to your own devices. And this one, maybe some of it is the context of having played the first one, but just sort of going through and seeing what you need to craft and finding resources. And the resources are significantly either more abundant or more visible or something. It seemed like it was just way easier to gather what I needed to craft the stuff I wanted to make, which meant I managed to build a really awesome sea base in a lot less time.
About how many hours do you think you sunk into it?
That is a good question. According to Steam, it was about 27. And I think I could easily spend significantly more time puttering around in it now that the story is over and just building fancy sea bases and exploring all the nooks and crannies of the zones. But I basically got really hooked on the story and motored my way through everything. So yeah, it was, in some ways it was a very similar experience to the first one. And in other ways it was completely different. So I think my only gripe is that there's a couple of sections where you have to spend significantly more time out of the water, and it feels like a little bit of a different game. The movement out of the water is not as great.
I was going to say, how much of the out of game occurs out of water? Because my recollection is this game is mostly in water.
Yeah, so the first one, there were maybe 2 little islands with some stuff to discover on them. In this one, there's, I guess it's essentially 2 or 3 above the water zones, but they're just bigger and there's more to do in them. So you spend a lot more time on land than you do in the first game, but you still spend probably at least 80% of your time underwater.
Okay. Because, yeah, I had seen some trailers for the game, and they were showing off, like, walking around on land. And my reaction to that was, honestly, this is still Subnautica, right? It's still mostly underwater, right? So, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I had sort of the same gut reaction when I saw that. It's like, I really liked the first game because it was underwater. If this is all gonna be on the ice, I don't think I want it. But no, it's underwater. And yeah, I just like the first one. I appreciate all the weird sea creatures, and they have someone who knows some stuff. Working with the team to develop the zones and make them quasi-realistic. I was pretty pleased as an oceanographer to see that. So yeah, just gorgeous and fun, and still full of monsters that want to eat your face.
I mean, that's the ocean, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first one just terrified me, because like I have a fear of dark water, and like I spent so much time ducking out of my base and then trying to do something and then hearing a weird noise and then ducking back inside my base. But like once I kind of got over that, I was good until I got to the land of the Leviathans.
Yeah.
And then huge leviathans chomping on my ship was just terrifying.
Yeah, that's still terrifying in the second game. But the second game also has sea monkeys, so, they're friendly-ish.
And penguin-ish things?
Yes. Yes, little pangling things. But the first thing that I did was pick up one, and then I scanned them, and they're like, this is a baby thing. Its parents will get mad if you pick it up. Don't do that.
Oh my gosh. So
Whoops.
I watched a little bit of a playthrough of a game dev that I enjoy following. And the first thing he did was build a base, build a biomass reactor, and see if he could pick up a pingling and stick it in the biomass reactor.
Wow.
You can. You absolutely can.
Monster.
You can power your base on pinglings.
Oh dear.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's terrible. It's terrible. Because they're kind of cute-ish.
They're really cute, and you get a little robot one you get to drive around. No, that's horrible.
It's like eating porgs.
I mean, if I was on the island long enough, I would eat porgs. I'm just saying. So, I don't know if we've really talked about this thing on the show. But, so, I feel like there needs to be a certain amount of backstory. Shadowlands was not very well received as far as World of Warcraft expansions go.
Right.
I had a moment there because I thought you said Shadowbringers for some reason.
No, Shadowlands. I think it was Shadowlands.
Yes.
And this is coming off of another expansion that was not very well received.
Yeah, like BFA was not very well received. Like I enjoyed parts of the story for BFA, but I did not enjoy the systems that came into the game around that.
BFA had a pretty fun leveling experience, and then you had to engage with endgame systems, and I wasn't as much of a fan.
Well, so part of what made Legion so cool was the hunt for weapons. Like, I really enjoyed that and all the story they put in, like the backstory of all these different weapons that you're going out and seeking in the world, and then the weapon grows over time, and yeah, that was a grind, but like it seemed like it was a grind for a cool thing. You got skins for the weapon, you got, new abilities, but they took for BFA that same grind, but put it on a necklace, a non-cosmetic item that's basically just a stat stick. So, like, it just wasn't anywhere near as entertaining. And it was super grindy. But Shadowbringers has a bunch of grinds in it. And they created this roguelike area. So, like, there's a roguelike dungeon called the Torghast. And there's an area around Torghast that is designed to be frustrating. I mean, like, it seemed like they were making a Souls-like area in the game.
Yeah, this is the area where, like, if you spend too long in there...
Yep, if you kill too much stuff,
for you. Yeah.
It gets worse and gets worse and gets worse until you eventually die. Also, you can't mount in there unless you've gotten some special kind of mount to drop. It's just not fun. But the game kind of forced you to go there for various systems. And on top of that, the 9.1 9.1 patch is finally landing June 29th. And the game released October-ish, September-ish, something like that.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So it's basically going to be like 9 months by the time the patch actually lands. So it's 9 months without new content. So the WoW community has not been in a really happy state. Like we have a friend that is a fairly dedicated raider, and he is very happy with the game. And I do not speak for him. He is seemingly fine with the state of things, but like there's a lot of people that haven't been fine with the state of things. And one of the things that's happened is Final Fantasy has a pretty great community. Final Fantasy players are also really big in showing off all the cool things that are going on in the community. And there's a meme about them chasing somebody down, telling them about the free-to-play.
I was going to say, I've heard that Final Fantasy XIV has a free trial that includes the entirety of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heavensward.
You get Heavensward now!
And the award-winning Heavensward, yes. Which is important because
it really is.
A Realm Reborn is very good at the very end.
I mean, I feel like A Realm Reborn was really good.
I mean,
like compared to WoW, it was exceptionally good.
It has great moments throughout. It has great moments throughout. It also had some like pacing issues. Those have, at least some of that has been corrected. I don't know to what degree. I haven't gone back and played through it all, since they made the changes. But it's like there's good stuff in there. There's just a lot of other stuff around it. And returning to the Waking Sands a lot. I mean, heck, my experience playing through it the first time was once I came back and actually defeated Titan, like from that point on, I was in.
Yeah, but getting to defeating Titan is very challenging.
It did take some work, yeah, because that's at like level 34 or so.
And then you've got some content deserts.
Yeah.
I think they have tried to fix that a little bit because it was like really, really bad for a while, but it still takes a fair amount of focus to get through a lot of that early mid stuff.
So now, Belle, do you feel that this is a fair thing to be comparing, or is this just FF14 hype?
I don't know. I mean, as a longtime WoW player, WoW does not do amazing story content.
No.
They had some really good story arcs, but like the story was told in a way that wasn't terribly engaging unless you really wanted to. It was kind of the Destiny model for storytelling.
Well, and so here's the thing that I have observed, at least in the people I follow, is that WoW is really great Final Fantasy is really great at providing good, interesting story content for you to get really engaged in, and is less good at catering to you if you are a like high-end like end game raider. Because while there is content for it, that's not really the focus of their releases.
Well, and that kind of gets into one of the complaints that I've heard about World of Warcraft is that over the years, World of Warcraft threw away most of the game and now really only cares about progression. Like there were a lot of games that once existed inside of World of Warcraft. There was a crafting progression system. Like there were lots of little systems that you could do, and the casual player was pretty well supported. And now it seems like basically all that's actually really supported is, like raiding and Mythic Plus.
It's like so many of the players acted like the, World of Warcraft only begins at, once you hit max level, to the point that the developers decided to agree with them.
Right, and now that's basically true. Like, they're getting to cap is the important thing so that you can start actually playing the game. And like, I felt that for certain when I was playing Shadowlands.
Yeah, it really came through for me in Shadowlands that was, I think, really one of the few times where I played through. I mean, it's the first time that I played through a WoW expansion and never actually got to the end of the leveling content. And it was the first time that I felt like that they really had not put their full effort and polish into that. Like, you could just see that there were things that were being lined up to be endgame systems, and you sort of were supposed to care about these things because you knew you were going to have to pick one of the factions when you hit the level cap, but they didn't do a lot to get you invested along the way. And yeah, and very, very different from the feeling I got from previous expansions.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that's been happening during this drought in WoW content is a lot of very popular community members have been dipping their toes in Final Fantasy XIV. Like, publicly dipping their toes in Final Fantasy XIV. Like, even toxic as hell folks like Asmongold are planning to play the next expansion of Final Fantasy XIV. But more than that, it's like, you know, folks that have done paid promotions with World of Warcraft in the past, like Bellular, that did a number of how-to videos when Shadowlands released, is now heavily engaged in Final Fantasy XIV. And one of the things that's come out of this has been really interesting is there's a YouTuber that is fairly small called Medieval Marty. And he is, or was, a 15-year WoW vet and had never touched Final Fantasy XIV, but finally got convinced by some friends to try it and recorded basically the first 10 days playing the game, and like all commenting on all the little revelations that he come across as he played. And it is a delightful thing to watch. Each one's about 15 minutes or so, and it's kind of a summary of like, this is what I did. Oh, hey, fishing's really cool. Oh, hey, I love the job system. This is really cool. I don't have to choose. Oh, hey, I just wasted my entire day because I went on an ocean fishing vessel. And just like the weird community aspect of it. But it's also spawned like a bunch of other people doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I here recently, like, the YouTube algorithm has been sending me all of them, and it feels like my feed is full of WoW veteran tries Final Fantasy XIV videos, and there's just like an exceptional amount of them. And it does kind of make me wonder, like, is there going to be a stickiness to this, what seems to be a surge of people playing Final Fantasy XIV? Mm-hmm. Or is this just a trend?
Isn't it? Have we heard that Final Fantasy is now the most popular MMO?
It has been disputed, but
it has been claimed. Yeah,
it has been claimed that it is basically bypassed World of Warcraft retail.
But it's hard to know exactly the metrics that they're using and how, like, what are we counting here, and so. But I mean, FF14's obviously doing well.
There's kind of been this perfect storm of Blizzard pissing off WoW players. Because, like, Shadowlands wasn't great, and the 9.1 patch took forever. But also, while that was going on, like, Burning Crusade Classic released right after Classic got Naxxramas. And...
Wait, really?
Yeah, just like there wasn't much time between when Burning Crusade Classic released and Naxxramas released. Let me look at the dates.
So I did not follow that. Did they actually make everyone go through a AQ40 event?
They did.
Oh.
Okay, so it's a longer time than I realized. December 1st, Naxxramas released.
But then they also did some questionable things with the launch of Burning Crusade Classic.
Yeah,
Right.
so you basically have to choose, are you playing Burning Crusade or are you playing WoW Classic? And
Unless you
like,
pay
for
some extra.
every one of my characters essentially has a choice. And what this has happened is basically all the classic servers are unpopulated now. No one is playing WoW Classic anymore.
Boo.
They're all
Yeah.
playing Burning Crusade Classic. And part of Burning Crusade Classic is you could buy a mount.
Yeah. And that was the point at which I lost my interest. I was super hyped for Burning Crusade
Wait,
Classic.
Pay money for a mount?
Yep.
Yep.
You can also
Oh.
level skip to Burning Crusade levels.
Yep. Totally, like, not even, oh, hey, you pay some money and get some prestige mount from actual Burning Crusade, which would still have been kind of bad, but
Now, you get an
Less
exclusive one
terrible?
that didn't exist
That would
before.
still be bad.
You get an exclusive one that you can only get that way. And it doesn't work in retail. It only works in Burning Crusade. You get a different mount in retail.
Oh,
So, yeah,
man.
So yeah, like they've pissed off the classic community, and at the same time they're pissing off the retail community. So it's kind of this perfect storm of player ill will.
I really question who they thought that mount was for.
Somebody who didn't want, because, well, I mean, somebody who didn't want to try and get, what was it, 5,000 gold?
There's only 1,000.
Oh, I'm thinking of the epic mount, aren't I?
Yeah. I mean, I assume it's just an epic mount.
No. Remember, the first flying mount was 1,000 gold. It was the
Right.
epic mount that was
It's like
5,000 gold.
5,000?
Yeah.
The epic flying mount.
Yeah, that was 5,000 gold.
Right.
Yes.
I mean,
the guild had to raise funds to buy it for me because I was broke all the time from tank repair bills, and they were tired of me taking too long to get to instances. Like, I remember, like, they invented a lottery system just to make me feel better about it.
I remember that there was one person in the group I was playing with that had been playing the auction house for the entire vanilla period, and then they were like the only person on the server with an epic mount because they had amassed 5,000 gold in vanilla and blew it all once they could on an epic mount.
yeah. But I don't think this paid mount is a flying mount.
Is it not?
I don't think so.
I think it is.
I mean,
I would be
a
shocked if
warp
it was
stalker.
not.
I mean, it might fly once you've unlocked flying, but these days all of them do. So I don't know. Like, I'm unclear on whether people who bought this mount actually like got epic flying for free, because that was a whole separate deal.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
a mount period
Oh yeah,
is a huge lift in Classic right now.
yeah. I did my Arathi base in time and got my mount that way. But yeah, no, I see people. It like, I mean, the point of Classic is that it's supposed to be like Classic, and you know that's not.
So basically, I feel like Final Fantasy XIV is kind of reaping the rewards of
Oh yeah,
the discontent in
yeah.
the player base right now.
Well, and honestly, hopefully this will cause some people who have been very factionalized, like WoW or nothing, to maybe look at other games. Because there's a lot of
Yeah.
MMOs out there, and you know there might be a game out there that's been around for years that you never played. You actually like better than WoW. Could happen.
I had
Or not.
a weird itch to load up the Secret World and see if that was any good.
I guess they're doing an anniversary thing for the relaunch, so I guess it's still going. I don't know.
Yeah.
The stuff I've heard just always seems to be real mixed.
But like, there's a bunch of games that have just kind of quietly been sitting in the background, gaining mass. Like Final Fantasy XIV just continues to grow.
Yeah.
Elder Scrolls Online just continues to grow. I mean, and I think it all stems from the fact that, like, when World of Warcraft was released, what it was doing was novel and different.
Oh yeah, it was so far ahead of anything else that was out on the market at the time.
And it amassed a following, and people play WoW because people play WoW. Like, that was the thing that kept people playing, is because it was the game that people were playing.
Yeah.
And now that that's less and less of a true statement, I don't know. Like, for years, we all speculated what would happen if WoW released 2 bad expansions in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of what happened. So we'll see.
I feel like with Tam not here to say it, I have to say that I think the weakening of WoW will only be good for the MMO space in general. Maybe allow some more room for other ones to thrive.
I would say that, but also I think the challenge is WoW gamers grew up and got responsibilities, and the type of engagement that they're capable of doing now is not the type of engagement they were when they were in college.
Yes, and new gamers aren't playing WoW, they're playing Roblox.
Right, exactly. Like, new gamers are not onboarding to WoW. Like, there is a trickle of new gamers going into Final Fantasy XIV, but, like, that's not what young gamers are playing. They're playing Fortnite and Roblox and still Call of Duty for some reason.
Yeah.
And Mario games. Mario is timeless.
Oh, yes. Oh, let me tell you how much my 3-year-old son loves Mario. It has become his obsession. But I don't know. I mean, maybe even just with, like, I don't know, a little more space and less of one monolith, like, looming over everything. Maybe there'll be more room for something else to spring up that will be appealing to newer gamers. I don't know.
I still think whoever builds a good version of Fantasy Destiny that has some of the trappings of MMOs, like lightweight player housing, maybe, crafting, but also like an engagement model that is similar to Destiny. Like, I think that game will do well whenever it's a good version. Godfall was not a good version. Like, I went back this week to try and play Godfall, because I've been doing the thing that you do when you get new hardware. You install all the things, especially the things that were pretty, to see how much prettier they look. And yeah, it's a pretty game, but like, it is not a good game by any stretch of the imagination. And given that, like, that's Gearbox, and also Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is going to be sort of fantasy looter shooter, is also Gearbox. I don't know. Like, I have hopes that it will be good, but
it's possible. Yeah, I'll just make my own MMO with pandas and Legolas.
Well, those are the 3 things you need: Panda, Poncho, and a Legolas.
Yeah.
So I feel like we have to, like, actually explain what the hell that is.
So, elder statesman of the massively multiplayer online community, Lum the Mad, made a little Twitter thread earlier this evening about a game called MMO Tycoon 2. MMORPG Tycoon 2. That he picked up and had started playing and appeared amused by, in which you can build your own MMO and try and lure players into it and decide whether you want it to be a PvP or a social MMO or casual or what have you. And, do you want it to be pay to win and make classes and nerf things and try and keep your players happy? And when they complain that they're too bored, spawn a bunch of elite bears in the newbie zone for excitement. So yeah, I've decided it looks entertaining and picked it up. I don't know if it'll actually be good. Like, the reviews look good.
The Twitter thread's great.
Yeah,
that's all that really matters.
Like, it looks like the sort of thing that will result in amusing stories. So that's what really matters.
So this week I have been playing a lot of Final Fantasy VII Remake on the PS5, and it's gorgeous. But we've already talked about that a lot, so I'm not going to talk about that. But what I am going to talk about is my weird engagement with things. Namely, like, I don't operate in a manner that most people do. Like, most console gamers play on, like, a living room television and are on a couch with a controller, and life is grand, and
Right.
that is a thing. And that is not how any of my consoles are hooked up. My consoles are up in my office where my gaming desktop's at, and when I am playing on the couch, I am streaming games to my laptop, which I get is a Rube Goldberg thing that, if you know me, you would expect, but...
Right, yeah.
And, I've played with Parsec over the years, and I've played with Moonlight more recently, and it's great. Like, that's how I play games when I am in relaxation mode. But what that also does is lock me out of playing things on consoles because they're all upstairs. PlayStation Remote Play exists, and I had played with it in the PS4 era, but I had a baseline PS4, and it did not work terribly well. It is infinitely better with a PS5. Like, I can stream games in 1080p and 60 frames per second to my laptop and play them while I'm downstairs, and it is awesome. So I get that saying if you have a PS5, you should totally check this out is rude, because so many people in this channel would really like to have a PS5 but don't.
Grr.
Rude.
But last time I messed around with this, there was a third-party developer, and the website is TMACDev, and this person was creating an unofficial remote play client that had a bunch of extra features. Like, it had less latency in the connection, it had a LAN-only mode so that it didn't try and go out to the internet first and then tunnel back into your device, which is what the PlayStation client does. And I had wondered, did this ever get better? And it absolutely got better. So the client is like 19 pounds, which, because of the post-Brexit exchange rate, is only like $23. I remember a time when basically it was 2 pounds to $1.
Yeah. Yeesh.
Yeah, so now is the time to buy things from the UK. Just saying.
Wow, you're not kidding.
Yeah, so I ended up picking up a new client license, because the old client license I had, I could still continue to play on, but it was like legacy mode, and it was only PlayStation 4, and it wasn't as well supported. And they've added a ton of features. Like, and the thing that was interesting about it is you could play with a mouse and keyboard if you wanted to. You could play with an Xbox controller if you wanted to. The real Sony PlayStation Remote Play client is limited to either a DualShock 4 or a DualSense controller. But this lets you hook up anything you want to play remotely. Also, it has added support for not only the PlayStation 5, but also Xbox through the same client. So if you've got an Xbox, you can use the same client. And like, there was a difference between Parsec and Moonlight, to where Moonlight literally feels like I'm sitting on my box upstairs when I'm using it. And that is kind of the difference between the default Remote Play client and the TMACDev Remote Play client. And I have a feeling I will probably be going through a renaissance of console games because they're now significantly more accessible to me.
There's a lot of console games for you to play.
There are a lot of console games for me to play. Yeah. I've never played Last of Us 1 or 2. I have them. I've started them. I've never finished them. But I am getting pretty close to the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake. And mostly, I just want to play the Yuffie content. So
I was going to say, are you playing on the PS5?
I am playing on the PS5. It is real pretty.
Yo.
Like, it is a significant... Like, it was really pretty on the PS4, and it was really pretty on the PS5 running the PS4 client, but it's even prettier in native PS5 mode. You know another game that's really pretty on the PS5?
Oh, what's
and
that?
We've talked about this. Ratchet and Clank.
Oh, yeah.
Very rude.
It's a very pretty game. How far in it are you, Bill?
I have not gotten much further than I was the other day, which is... It's hard to, like, gauge progress, but, like, I am on the first planet where you get to choose which one you go to.
Okay, which one did you go to?
I am on the Ratchet planet right now.
All right. I just finished that planet up. So there were a couple of things I am observing, which I feel are very weird. And, like, sometimes this happens in games and it kind of takes me out. But there is, like, I don't know much about Ratchet and Clank. Is what happened to the other Lombaxes a secret still in this game, or is it generally well known? Like, is that something that we know from playing other games in the Ratchet series?
Trying to think. Like, I don't think really explicitly.
I don't think so.
Because there's this is where I was like, I got super confused because this is my first entry to this game. Right? I've never played a Ratchet and Clank before. But you sort of find out what has happened to them. And, like, Ratchet is the one who is finding it out, but it is all through a side quest that you are doing. Like, it's through, like, the collectible on the planet. And, like, Ratchet doesn't react, presumably because this is, like, side quest content, but it felt really weird to me.
That Ratchet isn't concerned about the fate of his people?
Well, that Ratchet has now discovered what has happened to the other Lombaxes and also does not seem to care, though. That's a little weird to me. And the other observation I had is that this game is kind of the opposite of a mecha game, of a mecha anime. It's got a lot of wow, cool war and the horror of robot. I don't know. I'm really liking it, though. It's got some genuinely, like, very well told story. And then this one thing that just kind of irks in my craw.
Like, for me, Ratchet and Clank was always a really good platformer that had interesting weapons. Because, like, the weapons are really cool. And, like, you can use them in very interesting ways. And there's no one correct option in a lot of the fights. You can kind of utilize whatever you want.
Yeah. I've got the one that is a grenade that spawns tons of Ratchet, spawns tons of Clanks. That's great.
My favorite thing so far is the gun that shoots out Mr. Fungus.
The Mr. Fun Guys?
Yes. I
love the Fun Guys. They're so much fun.
Like, I always throw one of those out, and it's basically a turret. You know, that runs around and has a little bit more intelligence to it.
It's definitely a turret, which is why I was like, oh, this is a turret. Great. So, like, I am the pet class. I have the Mr. Fun Guys. I've upgraded that to the point that it's spawning 2 of them at once. So, like, I can rapid fire out about 16 guys to start shooting at people, and then a horde of probably like 40 Clanks to just start mauling everyone, and then I just get to sit back and watch.
I don't ever throw that many out at once. Like I,
mean,
tend to have one out, and then when it drops, I throw another one out.
Oh,
but
no.
I never thought to just like chain spawn
Just spam
fun guys.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
I didn't even know that was possible, to be honest. Like,
Yup.
I assumed I could only have one out at a time.
Oh, no,
So, like,
no, you're not thinking degenerate enough, Bell.
Okay,
Yeah.
it looks like the secret of what happened to the Lombax race was revealed at the climax of a previous game.
Oh,
So Ratchet, by this point, does know what happened to them.
Great.
So this is not new information for him.
okay. Yeah, because, like, I did not play the PlayStation 3 games.
Yeah, it's in one of the PS3 games.
Okay.
Like, the secret of where they went was revealed to them, and he was given the option to join them.
Oh, and he chose not to?
And he chose not to.
Of course.
Because his man wouldn't have gone, you know?
Yeah.
It's a love tale about a boy and his robot.
This does make a lot more sense, because that was the other thing, is like in it, like the response is, I have the coordinates, like you should come meet us if you're out there. I was like, this feels very weird. This also makes more sense why this game is generally a lot about Ratchet being uncomfortable with the idea of going and like hunting for more Lombax.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's good.
It is, in fact, a reason to buy a PS5. If, you know, they ever come back in stock.
Yeah.
If they would let me.
And it's not that you're not trying.
No. So I'm guessing you haven't gotten the Hand of Doom yet?
Which is the Hand of Doom?
Yeah, that's the one that spawns more Clanks.
No, I've not gotten that one. I have the grenade glove type thing, the shotgun, the like heavy machine gun type thing.
Frankly, my current complaint is that it feels like I don't have the ability to hot swap between more weapons. I only can hot swap between 4 weapons.
I thought you had 6 on the wheel.
You have 8 on the wheel, but I don't want to go into the wheel. I would rather be able to use the D-pad, which only has 4 associated with it.
I never swap with the D-pad. Like, I mean, because I don't know if you could do it in past games. Like, you just bring up the wheel.
Yeah, I don't have any idea what past games were like, as we had mentioned before.
Yeah, like, I mean, but I got used to doing that back on the PlayStation 2, and so for now, I don't even think to try and swap any other way. I just bring up the wheel whenever I need a weapon, and I memorize what order they're in, so I can quickly pop over to whatever weapon I actually wanted. I mean, because it pauses the game while you're in the wheel.
Yeah.
I don't know. Grace, do you remember if the PlayStation 4 version had hot swaps?
I mean, I only ever used the wheel.
Okay, yeah, so I don't know.
Because like you said, it pauses the game. You just pick what you want, and you have all of your stuff there.
And it's been the way to swap since the very first game.
Forever,
so like,
yeah.
so like, I wouldn't even think to look for another way to swap weapons.
But I could definitely see where only having 4 would feel pretty limiting.
Yeah, no, I like having... I have started swapping with the wheel a little bit more, because some of the items I care about aren't on the wheel, like the zap gun. I don't know. This is definitely making me realize I need to play more of these games and maybe get the one for the PS4.
At a minimum, you need to go back and play the PS4 game, because it's like a remake of the first game, I think, but it's better.
It basically is a slightly tongue-in-cheek remake of the first game.
Everything about this feels slightly tongue-in-cheek.
Oh, yeah.
Except for the poor robots who are always sad.
I mean, there's definitely good robots and bad robots.
I mean, I guess the only characters who feel like they're allowed to have, like, nuance and, like, emotional responses other than like wacky, goofy hijinks is Ratchet and Clank and their counterpart in this dimension.
I feel like that's pretty on brand.
I mean, it's a cartoon, and they're the ones that matter. And I'm not sure we have any more topics for the week. Anybody have any short things to talk about?
Loki continues to be good. You should watch it.
It is amazing.
It's like, what if Doctor Who in the Marvel Universe?
I actually take it slightly differently because I'm more of a fan of like less genre because I have seen a lot less genre TV. For me, it feels very much like What If White Collar, but in the Marvel universe.
I mean, I've only watched the beginning of the first episode, so I can't speak to it much, but I just started watching it and went, oh, it's like Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah.
But in Marvel Universe.
Yeah, it's like it definitely it feels very Hitchhiker's Guide or Doctor Who, depending on the particular moment. But yeah, with Loki involved in it all.
This last episode felt super Doctor Who.
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah, episode 3 in particular, like that felt like it could have been like, you know, the Doctor and River Song in basically that exact situation.
Like, even the setting feels like it's pulled right from Doctor Who, because they do that thing where you have near future timelines that like feel just like that. I'm specifically thinking like the episode where they're like on I don't know if it's a space station or a spaceship that's getting pulled into a sun, and they're trying to figure out how to save the crew. It's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, it has a very similar feel to that.
But yeah, it's great. You should watch it. Also, if you have Disney Plus, you should watch Bluey. Bluey is the best children's cartoon on television today.
I've not watched Bluey yet.
We've been watching.
It's amazing.
Fantastic.
We've been watching a bit of Bluey.
Bad Batch sits in this interesting role of acting as a series that's gluing a bunch of elements together that we've seen in Star Wars films. Like, it is building out a chunk of the universe that we didn't know a lot about.
Yeah, I need to watch more of that, because that's honestly these days my favorite sort of Star Wars media, is the stuff that goes to those places that were just barely touched on in the films or even just mentioned and explores them more.
The last 2 episodes have without a doubt, last 3 actually, have without a doubt proven this is firmly planted in the Dave Filoni-verse. There's been enough like reoccurring characters that connect up to other animated shows. And Mandalorian for that sake.
Is it safe to like start watching Bad Batch without necessarily having seen all of the other Filoni stuff, or?
Yeah, like I don't think that it's necessarily going to detract if you've not watched all the Filoni stuff. Like, there are characters that are memeable enough that you will recognize.
Okay.
Like, there's a couple characters that have like appeared in a lot of Dave Filoni things that you're gonna recognize immediately. Like, just because you've been around media.
I know memes and the internet. I mean, I certainly want to watch some of the other stuff. It's just a case of finding time to catch up on everything.
I would say probably mostly Bad Batch is kind of standalone, other than the fact that it has connections to the existing stuff.
Right.
I do still want somebody to do a Tag and Bink miniseries. That would be a lot of fun. For those who are not aware, Tag and Bink Are Dead was a comics miniseries back when Dark Horse had the Star Wars license, about these 2 poor saps that basically managed to be in the background of pretty much the entire original trilogy. Like, it's very much a reference to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. It's very entertaining. I'd love to see that adapted into, an animated series.
I think it would fit an animated series a lot better than if they tried to do it as a live action.
Yeah.
I am hoping as generations age out, we will get over the hang up that serious content cannot be in animated form.
I mean, I think we're getting better about it, but yeah. We've at least managed to get past the cartoons are only for kids. Now we need to move on past the cartoons are only for comedy.
I've also heard the newer seasons of Castlevania are great, and I need to catch up and watch that.
Yeah, I've seen some really good reviews of that. I need to get caught up.
Anyway, well, that's probably a show. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we will be back next week with some topics that got bumped, and we will see you there. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See ya.